The most consequential event for Americans this fall will not be the election, a war in the Middle East, or even baseball's World Series. It is actually a decision that is going to be made by the world's most powerful people in finance, and they have not made this decision in about 4 years' time. This catastrophically important choice that they're about to make is going to affect everything that is related to your wallet or pocketbook. Here at Money on the Move, we track what big money and smart money is currently doing. We provide you with information-rich videos that do not waste any of your time. So if you appreciate that, like and subscribe and turn on notifications and join this journey. Today's video will cover a broad range of topics. First, we will discuss this important decision that is going to affect all of us that has not been made in about 4 years' time. After that, we will pivot into US stocks, investments, cryptocurrency, and other moves that big players in finance are currently up to. So watch this entire video in its full so you get all of this rich information. So let's get into today's video. You probably remember the year 2020, when there was this global phenomenon that was very interesting and it affected all of us. This black swan event led to businesses being closed, markets crashing, airports being shut down, and we were all forced to stay inside for a while. During this pandemonium, the Federal Reserve had to step in and do something to help boost the economy despite the chaos that was taking place. So, in this emergency meeting, they cut interest rates down to 0%. In doing so, the cost of money became very affordable and cheap. That, combined with the force of capital injections into the market, led to one of the biggest and most profitable bull runs of all time. As we saw the pandemic play out and people got back to normal lives, they had to end this party and begin to change their monetary policy. And for those investors who were partying a little too long and did not see the writing on the wall, over the next few months, as the price of money began to go up, their investments went down. We went into a bear market or recession for about 12 months. So what is this massive catalyst that's going to have implications on almost all of Americans? Well, for the first time in 4 years, the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates. Now, this expected rate cut by the Federal Reserve this mid-September, it's not going to change the price of your eggs or your business's hiring plans. But what it will do is this: it's going to signal the start of the next phase of the monetary policy cycle. This new cycle of monetary policy will have vast and broad-reaching consequences that affect the economy, financial markets, consumerism, housing. Everything is affected when the price of money is changed. Now, like I said at the start of this video, in today's episode, we are going to cover a broad range of topics. So you might already be aware of some of what the Fed is doing. I might share with you information that you're not currently aware of, but stay tuned and watch this video in full because we have a lot of other juicy content coming too. On August 19th, Reuters put out this article. The US Federal Reserve is now expected to cut interest rates by 25 basis points at each of the remaining 3 meetings of 2024. This is one more reduction than predicted last month. So how confident can we actually be of this decision being implemented? Well, according to Blockbeats on August 17th, the probability of the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates by 25 basis points in September is now 75%. And that is according to the CME's FedWatch data. In just a moment, we will pivot topics and cover more interesting areas of economics and finance. I just want to leave you with one last note when it comes to rate cuts. There is a lot that can happen, and there's a lot of potential global activities happening right now that could affect this entirely, perhaps leading us to a quicker rate cut, a bigger rate cut, or a delayed rate cut. We have the World Health Organization releasing this new pandemic for Mpox. We have developments in the Middle East where many countries are sending their warships to go fight or guard Israel. So nothing is set in stone or certain quite yet. Everything can change, but we are currently looking at the writing on the wall for a change in economic policy and perhaps a new cycle. Woe to you who call good evil and evil good, though. During the pandemic, I remember that people were stuck in this cycle where bad news then became good news. If there was more bad news, that meant that we were going to have longer 0% interest rates. We cannot allow our brains to be trained to thinking that bad news is good for us because our money goes up. You have to remember that when there was a pandemic, a lot of people died. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people's livelihood was drastically interrupted. If there is any type of catalyst or a perfect storm that comes the next few months, causing the Fed to have to drop interest rates further, which there might be, especially when you look at Warren Buffett's portfolio, as we're about to do in a moment, there are a lot of people that will be hurt in that time period. So you cannot just think that the Fed dropping interest rates is good. There's a double-sided sword to this equation. In addition to this, you have to look at the last 12 months and remember that despite a high interest rate environment, we have had many companies and sectors absolutely crush it and do very well. The NASDAQ has made new all-time highs. Companies like NVIDIA have absolutely soared on AI. We've had the Bitcoin ETF. There have been many winners in this relatively difficult environment. Now let's pivot into what big money and smart money is currently doing. If you recall in our previous episode, before anyone else, we covered that Warren Buffett sold almost half his stake in Apple and many other companies. This chart right here represents Berkshire Hathaway's cash pile at a new all-time record of $277 billion. This chart is absolutely incredible. This shows all of Warren Buffett's cash equivalents, short-term treasuries, basically anything that is a cash position held by Berkshire Hathaway. Going back to 1991, you can see here in 2024, this is significantly higher than it's ever been before. Elon Musk even tweeted a couple weeks back saying that Warren Buffett now is the Federal Reserve. The reason that he made that tweet about Warren Buffett is that Warren Buffett currently owns more treasury bills than the Federal Reserve themselves do. This chart represents about 49% of the shares of his portfolio, the cash balance being $277 billion. Buffett is anticipating a US recession and taking preemptive action as he always does. Let's transition right now into something that's kind of controversial, has to do with money, a little entertaining, but very suspicious. A Texas-based investment company that is linked to BlackRock is now under scrutiny because they may have known that Donald Trump was going to be shot before the assassination attempt. The company is now under scrutiny specifically for a filing that they made right before the assassination attempt. Austin Private Wealth is denying accusations of attempting to short 12 million shares of Trump Media and Trump Technology Group, attributing that this was an incident due to a clerical error. Sounds a little fishy to me. What do you think? Drop a comment. Ironically enough, after the assassination attempt, Trump Media shares did spike 30%. Now, in this next segment of the video, I am going to shotgun you, pun intended unfortunately, with a lot of information across a lot of different topics. Coinbase's Brian Armstrong backs up Elon Musk about inflation. He says this is true. People tie themselves in knots trying to explain the cause of inflation, but the primary cause is the government spending more money than it has, and it needing to print more. Neutralize that, and most inflation problems go away. Bitcoin is the check and balance of excessive inflation. Buying it is a vote against inflation. Speaking of Bitcoin, here's a very interesting stat. Only 0.26% of the world's population can own one Bitcoin. According to Chain Catcher, Bitcoin Magazine disclosed on the social platform that only 0.26% of the world's population can actually own one Bitcoin. Donald Trump Jr. debuts a Telegram channel for a new crypto project. It is called the Defiant Ones. It is a play on words there. DeFi, Defiant Ones. Donald Trump Jr. initially disclosed intentions for a new venture last week, aiming to introduce a cryptocurrency platform that would tackle the disparities in banking services. If you have not actually explored the world of blockchain and cryptocurrency, I highly encourage you to do so because it does appear to me that this will be the future of our finance. Speaking of Trump and Trump-related people, Vance's plane had to make an emergency landing due to a malfunction. Again, smells a little fishy. And just when you thought Southern California couldn't get any worse, Southern Californians are now hit with skyrocketing electricity bills. California residents are grappling with skyrocketing electricity bills due to the time of use pricing system that was implemented during the pandemic. We briefly covered this topic once before, but I have to revisit it because it affects all Americans watching this video right now. The NPD, National Public Data, they did admit that hackers stole very sensitive information of Americans. This includes names, email addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, mailing addresses, and this is for millions of people, if not billions. This is a large portion of the US. If you don't have your credit frozen, you should do so until this further settles. In crypto meme news, Tron, which is one of the most established blockchain networks, has introduced a meme coin called Sundog. It is now available on CoinMarketCap. Palantir is one of the most informative companies. They are incredibly data rich and they do a lot of government contracts. The leader of Palantir has come out and said that the US will likely fight a three-front war against Russia, China, and Iran. He emphasized the need for the Pentagon to accelerate the development of autonomous weapons, noting the moral disparity in warfare. He stated, "I think that we are in an age when nuclear deterrent is actually less effective." He then begins to critique the Army and how it's failed to grow over time. Funny enough, in a previous video, we covered the failures of the US Army hiring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to promote for them, and now they want their money back. On this channel, we have covered a lot of interesting aspects to Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, including the new addition of options. We have a new development here as well. Franklin Templeton now wants the SEC's nod of approval for Bitcoin and Ethereum crypto index ETF. The $1.5 trillion asset manager, Franklin Templeton, is the latest player seeking to launch a crypto ETF. What makes this ETF interesting is that it is a hybrid. It is not an independent ETF for Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is one ETF that has both. This is a further development of something that Brian Armstrong, the founder of Coinbase, echoed in his recent earnings call, where they want to have an entire crypto ETF. So not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but almost like an S&P 500 or a top 100 crypto altcoin ETF. That being said, Armstrong acknowledged that regulatory challenges would delay such a vision, given that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only assets with regulatory clarity at the moment. My personal speculation is that if we get a Republican in office in this next election, the green light will probably be given for a lot of ventures like this, which will be great for people like me and you who hold cryptocurrency. Last but not least, in the world of cryptocurrency, this is very bullish and this displays actual utilization of blockchains. Tokenized US Treasury market surpasses $1.9 billion. Data from RWA.xyz reveals that the tokenized US Treasury market has grown to over $1.9 billion. Franklin Templeton's on-chain US government money fund leads with a market cap of $843 million, surpassing BlackRock's fund at $517 million. Ethereum dominates the market with $1.4 billion in US Treasury tokens, followed by the Stellar blockchain of $430 million. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. This was another episode of Money on the Move. Please like and subscribe. Share with us in the comments some of your thoughts on what's going on geopolitically, economically, financially, or anything else that you think that we missed or something that you would like us to cover. Turn on notifications. Thank you so much. Have a great day and stay tuned for the next episode.